Acts 5, verse 12 to 16 presents a striking portrait of the early assembly in Jerusalem during a unique and climactic moment in redemptive history. The passage reads, "And by the hands of the apostles were many signs and wonders wrought among the people, and believers were the more added to the Lord, multitudes both of men and women. There came also a multitude out of the cities round about unto Jerusalem, bringing sick folks and them which were vexed with unclean spirits, and they were healed every one." This scene unfolds in the immediate aftermath of divine judgment within the covenant community, and now it transitions into a display of divine power flowing through the apostles. These signs and wonders are not random acts of compassion alone, they are covenantal confirmations. The apostles stand as authorized witnesses of a finished and inaugurated kingdom, bearing testimony that what had been promised through the law and the prophets had now reached its fulfillment. The text emphasizes that these works were done by the hands of the apostles. This phrase highlights agency, not merely human effort, but divine activity mediated through chosen representatives. Just as Moses stretched out his hand in Egypt and Elijah acted in the days of Israel's decline, so now the apostles function as covenantal mediators, demonstrating that a transition is underway. The authority vested in them is evidence that the old order, centered in the temple and its system, is giving way to a greater reality. They were all with one accord in Solomon's porch. This detail is significant. Solomon's porch, located within the temple complex, becomes the staging ground for this visible testimony. The very place that symbolized the height of its former glory now hosts the proclamation of its fulfillment. Unity among the believers is not merely emotional harmony. It is shared participation in a completed work. They stand together as those who have come to recognize that righteousness is no longer pursued through the structures surrounding them, but has been established through what has already been accomplished. Of the rest durst no man join himself to them, but the people magnified them. There is a tension here. Fear and admiration coexist. The recent judgment upon Ananias and Sapphira lingers in the minds of the people, revealing that this new covenant reality is not casual or superficial. It carries divine authority and exposes the heart. Yet at the same time, the people recognize something undeniable. God is present among them in a way that transcends the temple rituals they have long known. And believers were the more added to the Lord, multitudes both of men and women. The increase described here is not recruitment into an institution, but incorporation into a reality already secured. The phrase added to the Lord is crucial. It is not that the Lord is being enlarged, but that individuals are being brought into union with what has already been established. This addition is the unveiling of what had been promised, that a people would be gathered, not through lineage or law, but through faith in the completed work of the Messiah. The passage continues with a remarkable image. They brought forth the sick into the streets and laid them on beds and couches, that at the least the shadow of Peter passing by might overshadow some of them. This is not superstition, but symbolism filled with meaning. The shadow represents the extending influence of apostolic authority. Just as the presence of God once filled the tabernacle and temple with visible glory, now even the shadow of an apostle signifies the nearness of divine power. It testifies that the dwelling place of God is no longer confined to a structure of stone, but is manifested through those who bear witness to the completed covenant. There came also a multitude out of the cities round about unto Jerusalem. Jerusalem, long regarded as the center of covenant life, becomes the focal point of this gathering. Yet this gathering also signals something else, the climax of Jerusalem's role. The nations and surrounding regions begin to converge, not to perpetuate the old system, but to witness its fulfillment. The city that once stood as the exclusive locus of God's dealings now becomes the stage upon which its transition is publicly displayed. Bringing sick folks and them which were vexed with unclean spirits, and they were healed every one. The completeness of this statement, every one, is striking. It reflects the sufficiency of what has been accomplished. These healings are not merely physical restorations, they are signs pointing to a greater wholeness. Sickness and demonic oppression represent the brokenness associated with the old creation order, and their removal testifies that restoration has arrived in fullness through the work that has already been completed. In this passage, the miraculous is not presented as an end in itself, but as a witness. It declares that the anticipated age has come, that righteousness has been established apart from the law, and that access to God is no longer mediated through temple rituals, but through a finished and abiding reality. The apostles, standing in Jerusalem, embody this transition, serving as living testimonies that what was once promised has now been fulfilled, and that the kingdom they proclaim is not awaiting completion, but has already been brought near in power and certainty.